their apology, they can shove their apology up their ass. Hemi Panarin definitely looked like he got his mojo back. He got an assist. I was wrong. Big. And welcome back to Big Apple Hockey. I am your host for today, John Filkowski. I'm sorry, I'm bad at doing this host stuff. That's why I clearly leave it to Mark. But I'm your host for today. I figured that I would do something to give back to you all of you guys and girls that have been loyal viewers to us, and do a little Q&A. So there's not going to really be much of a format to this. I'm just going to ask a couple of questions, and I'm going to let you all in the chats really kind of control the discussion here. Hey, Anth, thanks, buddy. Appreciate you. But I'm just going to kind of, I guess, be here as not really a moderator. I don't know how to explain it, but I'm kind of just like a sounding board, if you will. So I'll open up this discussion to all of you. Again, you guys and girls in the chats, you're all going to control this. I'm just going to throw out questions to you guys and let you all answer. And I mean, we'll stick really kind of to like the playoff race as well. But any comments, any general questions like that, I'm just going to be here answering. So this is kind of just a free open stream for everybody. Just come in, pull up, grab a drink or a snack, and let's talk some hockey. So basically, mostly, I figured this would be about the wild card race, since that's what's going on. Maybe we could talk some Frozen Four for a little bit. I know the tournament's going to start in a couple hours or so. But yeah, let's get into that. So obviously, we've got this is a great first question. How many souls does David have to sell to get Chris Drury fired? Anybody got an answer on that? Yeah, oh, man, everybody's asking about Chris Drury's head already. I'm gonna go back to David here. You're gonna have to pull a Billy Zane from Tales from the Crypt Demon Knight and be the collector, buddy. Just make sure that nobody lines the doors that you walk through with the blood from that chalice, because you'll disintegrate if you walk through that thing. So that won't be good. Yeah, but I figure what we'll do here is I'll pull up the standings for you. Nothing really in the East was affected last night because everything was Western, very light slate last night. But here are your Metro standings. Carolina at 100, Pittsburgh 92, Islanders 89, Columbus 88, Philly 86, Washington 85, Jersey 78, and the E means eliminated, obviously, which the Rangers were one of the first two teams to be eliminated. The other one's in the West, obviously. The Atlantic, isn't it crazy seeing Buffalo at 100? Tampa Bay 98. That was supposed to be a line through. Let's fix that real quick. The line was supposed to be next to the 96, not between the 96 and Montreal. So I pulled the mark, guys. Sorry. 96 for Montreal, Boston 94, Ottawa 86, Detroit 86, Toronto 77, and Florida 75. And then you got the wild card standings, which is the big thing here. Boston's gotten wild card 1 at 94. Columbus has wild card 2 at 88. Ottawa and Detroit both at 86. Philadelphia has 86 as well. Washington at 85. And we got the Central. Sorry, let me just pull that up real quick. I had it and I hit the wrong button. Colorado, the X means clinched playoff spot. Y means clinched the division. And I think Z means clinch the President's Trophy, but we're not at that point yet. Although Colorado might be getting close. Dallas 100, Minnesota 94, Utah 82, Nashville 77, Winnipeg 76, 74 for St. Louis, and Chicago at 68. The Pacific, Anaheim 87, Edmonton 85, Vancouver, Vegas 82. I gotta wake up apparently. LA 78 after their win last night. San Jose 77, Seattle 75, Calgary 70. Vancouver is the other team that's been eliminated, 52. The West wild card standings. Utah has wild card 1 at 82. LA, it would help if I actually put the points in. That's gaff number 2 for me today, if anyone's counting. So they're at 78. Let me just add that in real quick. San Jose 77, Nashville 77, Winnipeg 76, Seattle 75, St. Louis 74. I didn't really go any lower than that just because no need. They're not really close. So I told you that I was going to, you did know Billy Zanen's a phantom, but if it's a phantom, I don't know, man. I think the collector could take some souls, buddy. So I'm going to start this one, DP, from you about the Rangers prospects. I'm going to get back to that in a little bit because want to keep this about the I deserve that one. That's 2 in a row. I'm gonna have to take my licks for that one. But I told you I would really kind of just be a sounding board here, but I just wanted to get the standings up and out of the way. So I'll throw it to you guys and girls. Who do you think will take each wild card spot? I look at these standings and I say to myself, everything is so tight right now. This is probably the tightest the division, the East wild. Dwayne saying the East wild card number 1 has 2 more points than the Pacific first place team. Yeah, that's crazy to think about, right? That the East is that much better than the West this year when it's been the opposite way for years. I remember the discussion was, the East would never do anything in the West and yada, yada. And now it looks like the tables have turned. How the turntables, to quote a certain Michael Scott. So, but yes, Dwayne, you're absolutely right about that. Looking at Anaheim is 87 points, and Columbus has 1 more point than them. Like that's nuts. That's nuts. But I just want to know who do you all think is going to take these 2 spots in each conference? Because I know Boston looks pretty solid right now. Like they've got probably out of all the teams that are in the wild card hunt. So you look at Boston, Columbus, Ottawa, Detroit, Philadelphia, Washington, and then Utah, LA, San Jose, Nashville, Winnipeg, Seattle, St. Louis. I mean, the 2 biggest game breakers in that entire discussion of all those teams that are close in these wildcard races, that are like technically in it, you're looking at David Pastrnak and you're looking at Macklin celebrating, right? So like, I have to think that would give Boston an edge up. But again, I want to know what you all thinking. David, if the Ducks win, do the Rangers get an honorary ring? I mean, I feel like the Ducks should at least do something. I mean, Ruth's Chris, Peter Luger's something, I mean, Chris Drury probably should get something for sending all of his players over there. Pat Verbeek should should take Chris Drury out to dinner or something, right? But yeah, again, I want to know what you all think. Let me know in the chats because I mean, I think Boston's going to take that top wild card, the wild card 1 in the East. I just think Columbus is floundering too much. You know what, Josh? I'm gonna get to this in a little bit. I like what you did with that. We might have to fire up somebody's Alexa and play some Judas Priest with one of my later questions that I have for you all. So keep that fresh in your mind. We're gonna go back to that. I don't know if you got to see. I don't know if you got to see there, Josh. I know you know which. I know you know which song this is. I know you know. I know you do. Life's for my own to live my own way. But yeah. So who do you all think is going to take that last wild card spot? The two wild card spots. David saying, "Am I the only Ranger fan?" Oh, you. Oh, I saw it, Josh. All right. Am I the only Ranger fan here who hopes that the Islanders make the playoffs, stall the progression a bit by being ahead of schedule? Petty, but I like the pettiness. I like it. I do. I get I get where you're going with that, and it's interesting because you don't want them getting any more higher picks. Yeah, I can see where you're going with that as a fan of a rival team, crosstown rival, and a bitter one at that. Um, I don't think you're the only Ranger fan. I think that doesn't want to see the Islanders get another higher pick. So. Flirting with Disaster by Molly Hatchet. That's a good one. It's a very good one right there. And I think you're right about that, Isildur. You're absolutely right about that. I mean, listen, they're in Division 3 spot right now, but they are in so much danger of being out because they are so close to that wild card. So close to that wild card. So Dwayne saying, I think it's crazy the Hurricanes' schedule's going to the end. They almost have a say in who they play. I mean, as a Hurricanes fan, though, Dwayne, considering some of the matchups that you have, like the Islanders are a matchup that's good for you guys because you guys have been really good against them. This is tongue in cheek, David, but I'm starring that because we'll talk about that later. The whole the whole Igor fight. We'll talk more about that because it's just fun. I mean, I was at the Nedeljkovic Bobrovsky fight in Florida in January on Martin Luther King Day. That was fun. So anybody who got to go to that, hats off to you. Hell of a game to be at. But yeah, Dwayne, I think Dwayne, like, I think you guys would want to see the Islanders. I know that everybody's saying, "Oh well, Sorokin can steal a game in a series," but the Islanders have had trouble scoring. They've had trouble in their power play. And Carolina historically has really dominated them in the playoffs and the regular season too recently. They've just been I don't think the Islanders, I said it yesterday, I don't think the Islanders want to see Carolina. I don't if anybody trying to say that Carolina doesn't want to see the Islanders, no. I don't think that's the case. I'm sorry, but I don't. So I'm with you. Like I think it's good though that you can say that your team has the ability to maybe control who they possibly play because you want your first two rounds to be relatively somewhat easy. Like you don't want it to be too easy to the point where it's a huge step up in competition and then you got to go from like playing it like here to playing like here. That could hurt you. But Rich is also right that the Hurricanes, their style of play, they value shot quantity over quality, and that doesn't win in the playoffs, as we've seen over the years. So, I mean, will their lack of center depth come back to hurt them? That's going to be the question. So, what do I think? I think they're going to be in. And I don't like the way they're playing right now. They're very inconsistent. I mean, they looked better against Buffalo, but the Montreal and Chicago games, like what's going on there? Like, and I would worry about them against the Carolina Hurricanes because the Carolina Hurricanes are just they've had their number. So you have two games against that team. One of them, they're still going to be playing all their guys. I don't know about the last game of the season. We'll see what happens there. But, yeah, it's their dragon. They have to slay their dragon. And I think that, you know what, it's good to look at it that way. If you're an Islander fan or if you're on the team, I think that's a good way to look at it because you got it. It's like the Rangers in '94. The Islanders at Nassau Coliseum were their problem for years. They hadn't won since like 1989 at the Coliseum before that. And then they finally pull out that win in March with the Zubov overtime winner. And it just a lot. I mean, just watch the Road to Victory DVD on that, and they'll tell you how important that win was for the Rangers. It was huge. And then they came into that series and absolutely blew them out of the water in 4 games. So, but yeah, it's what it comes down to. So, but yes, MYR for life. I'm going to star that one about the draft. I'm going to get to that later. So I definitely want to talk a little more about the wild card race before we get to real prospect talk, but definitely we'll mix some of that in at some point. I think, like I said, I think Boston will take it. I think the Islanders are going to probably be in a division spot. I don't know if I trust Columbus right now. Like Zach Werenski, no offense to Zach Werenski, who I think is a phenomenal player and should win the Norris Trophy this year, especially if Cale Makar is going to miss like any time. I think he might be out for almost the rest of the season. Cale Makar, like they're saying he's day to day, but if I'm Colorado, I rest him. I rest him and I make sure he's good for playoffs, and I don't worry about it. Like you don't need to have him in the lineup. They have more than a good enough team to win without him. So I think Werenski can catch up points wise, close the points gap between them, and he probably will win the Norris this year. I think he's been too good, and I also think that final play in the Olympics is going to have something. It's going to be in the mind of the voters. They're going to look back at that play and they're going to realize he bodied Nathan McKinnon off it. I know it's one play and it should be relatively inconsequential considering it wasn't NHL, but you can't sit there and tell me with a straight face that the voters aren't going to take a look back at that play and be like, hey, this guy helped like body off probably the number 2 or 3 player in the world and helped set up the gold medal winning goal for Jack Hughes and was awesome in that tournament. So it's just like draft status. World Juniors is a big thing. Like we saw Eric Johnson rocket up to number 1 overall because of a great World Juniors, and Phil Kessel dropped to 5 because of a bad tournament that year. So, I mean, yeah, I think these tournaments can help. So, but to get back to this, I look at Columbus and I don't know about their scoring. Yeah, you're gonna need Sean Monahan to be a Moose. He's gonna need to be a presence. But yeah, I would say I'm very worried about Columbus. Ottawa, I think, has more talent up front. I like Jake Sanderson and Thomas Chabot on defense. Their defense is pretty good. On paper, it just doesn't play that way. Overall, Dwayne, that Avs not going far in the playoffs. Ooh. Okay. I don't know. I mean, you never know with the playoffs. You can run into a hot team and be out. Look at Tampa. 2019, 62 wins, and what happens? They run into a Columbus team that they have nothing to lose. That team had nothing to lose. And what do? They upset them in 4 games after being down 3-0 in the first game. And Columbus comes back and they win that series. And they screwed the Rangers out of a better pick. So, yeah, but Boston looks like a pretty good team right now. They're playing good hockey. It's funny because they're like the sum of their parts. I think that's a team that I probably would want to stay away from if I'm a top team. Like if I'm at the top of the lineup, that like if Swayman gets hot, that is really a worry for me. Gabe saying Dallas is going to be a first round egg. That's interesting. You know what? In a way, I tend to agree with you, Gabe. I don't like they didn't address some key needs. I think they needed another top 6 forward, and I think they needed better right side defensive depth, and they didn't address either. I love Ottinger and net. Now that Pete DeBoer is not going to be yanking him from a game that he should have never been yanked from. So, Isildur saying that Habs are looking Juanti Alouetta. I'm guessing that's some sort of French. I'm not sure. But yeah. Yeah, Dwayne, I'm with you. Allmark is a big question mark for Ottawa. He hasn't been the same guy since 2023. They went into that playoff series against Florida thinking that they went and they were going to just walk all over Florida, and then Florida went on their run to where they are now. And Allmark has not been the same since. He hasn't. He simply hasn't. So yeah, I'm with you on that. I think Allmark is a big question mark. I really do. That's why I'm not sure about wait, how do the Rangers own the Stars' first pick? Oh, that's right. That's right. Carolina traded Dallas's first round pick that they got for Rantanen for Keandre Miller in the offseason. That's right. Ah, yes. Yeah. Yeah. I got it. Yep. Fair. Fair. Good point, Gabe. Way to be on that. Way to be on that. See, this is why I opened it up to you guys, because apparently I'm off the mark, pun intended, today. Buck Talk, we're gonna get to the whole Drury thing afterwards. We're really again, I want to kind of keep this about the wild card right now. But there will definitely be like outside stuff like that, prospects, Rangers, Drury, Devils, Islanders. All Islanders, obviously, they'll be involved in this kind of discussion, but Rangers and Devils, and anything like that outside of the wild card race, we will. That'll definitely be for a little later on in the stream, because definitely want to get this, keep this first and foremost and in the foreground. But I have starred all the comments about all the other stuff, so we will definitely talk about that. I have it saved. So, but I will just to talk about the West. I know somebody said Winnipeg before. Who was it? Said Scheifele was a sentimental favorite. Oh, it was Isildur. You said the Jets are with Scheifele are my sentimental favorites. So yeah, I mean, crazy enough, they're, as much as they've floundered, they're only 2 points out. 2 points out right now. So that's pretty good for them. Oh man. I know Gary would probably prefer that one of his big city teams with a superstar on it. I know he would prefer Edmonton to win it, because I think he would want to keep McDavid in Edmonton, and he would want to build up that market and start getting more Canadian eyes and everything, and try to do something a little more with McDavid. I think that's really what he would want to do. You got to find a way to market this guy. You really do. But if Buffalo or Montreal win it, yeah, that could be something that I if I had to rank the teams that Bettman didn't want to see win, I don't know if Buffalo would be there, just because I think he wants that market back, because they can be a very strong market when they're good. And we've seen that, like the mid 2000s, fresh out the lockout, those first 2 years, man. You know what? I think you might be right about this. I'm gonna talk. We'll talk about this later. I'm gonna star that. Oh. Dwayne saying he thinks Gary would love an Edmonton Montreal final. That'd be interesting. That'd be interesting. I don't think they've played in the playoffs since. No, sorry, no. I don't think they've ever played each other in the playoffs. Now that I think about it, they were in two completely different conferences and divisions the whole time. So, but the last time that Edmonton had any impact on Montreal winning would have been in '86 when Steve Smith put the puck into his own net. Ooh, Utah versus Boston. Utah versus Boston. Ugh. I can see Utah. I don't know about Boston, but Utah definitely. I know that he's got to be very chummy with Ryan with the Smiths, Ryan and Ashley Smith, and I think he would absolutely love to see Utah win one. Yeah, uh, Boston ratings. I'm not. New England's got a pretty big sports fan base. I don't know if it's as big as New York's per se, but yeah, maybe. I guess there are probably a bunch of people who don't like Boston, especially New York and in the other areas. So maybe. I mean, I'm not sure. I'm not sure on that. I can't definitively say one way or another, but I definitely think Newmarket is something that he would want to see win. So, but I think in the West, Nashville would be interesting to see just because Steven Stamkos going on a 40-goal campaign to get Nashville in the playoffs after Tampa dumped him would be a pretty funny storyline. But Winnipeg, I would love to see Hellebuck get back in and see what kind of chaos Winnipeg could possibly cause. Again, like I was saying yesterday, though, after Morrissey, there's no scoring. They have like four guys at the top of their scoring list, with Shifley having an amazing career year. Kyle Connor having a decent, but he'll probably end up scoring close to like 95 points, Kyle Connor, which, it's about Kyle Connor numbers right now. Gabe Velarde, I think, could end up finishing with about 70, 75 points, somewhere in that range. And then Josh Morrissey, I mean, depending on injuries, could maybe finish close to 60 points this year. But, after that, I think there's like a 30-point gap between Morrissey and the next highest scorer in Winnipeg. So I don't like that. And I don't think you can win without having depth. As great as Hellebuck is, I don't think you can win without having some sort of depth, because you can't count on your big guys to be your big guys every night. Like it just, even Wayne Gretzky at times would get shut down. So that's when you're going to need guys to come in and help out. And Winnipeg just doesn't have a lot of that right now. They don't. So the Ehlers, the loss of Nikolai Ehlers really hurt them. And Gustav Nyquist just never stepped up to be that guy. Jonathan Taves is fine as a bottom six fixture, maybe somewhere between a third and fourth line tweener, like really. But they just don't have the scoring depth right now. That I don't like it. I really don't. I personally could see Celebrini going on a rampage if Will Smith can stay healthy for the rest of the year. San Jose's goaltending defense, I don't trust them. Like, they're going to have to try to win a lot of games, 4-3, 5-4, 6-5, so on. It just, there's a lot of goal scoring there, and just not a lot of goals for. I mean, yeah, I mean, it's a lot of goals for and a lot of goals allowed. Like, So they're a minus 36 with 224 goals for and 260 goals against. And Macklin Celebrini has contributed on like almost 50% of their their total offense. It's crazy. That's why I think his season this year is more impressive than Crosby's sophomore year. So um but Seattle, yeah, what is Seattle? What is their identity? Like they might be the most vanilla team. I know Stat Boy Steven called the Minnesota Wild the side salad of the NHL, but that's not them anymore. I think that goes to the Seattle Kraken now. They just don't have an identity to me. They don't have a big like play driver. They don't have like an incredible defense. They don't have an amazing goalie. I mean, Berkeley Catton aside, who are their big time prospects that really stick out to you that are going to be game breakers one day? Like, what is in Seattle? Like they play it, yeah, honest customers. Yes, they play an honest game. You're right. No, absolutely right. They play an honest game. But what is their identity? Okay, Matty Beniers, but Matty Beniers has not been the same player since his Calder campaign, his Calder winning campaign. Where's the play driver? Who is their guy? Who is their linchpin? If Capo Caco is your linchpin, I think you have problems. That's just me. I would hope that most people would agree with that, but I really don't think you can count on Capo Caco, Shane Wright, or Matty Beniers right now to be like your ace. Like you need a guy that can come in and help stop the bleeding and take over games. Who? Yeah, I'm with you on this, Gabe. I mean, it is definitely questionable. And there's people that's village idiot stuff though, Frosty. That's village idiot stuff. Slavkovsky is about to hit 30 goals and over 60 points. Like he's starting to look like a true number one overall pick. Like, is he going to be a 100-point player? Maybe not, but I could see him being a point per game player easily. That's going to be a player worth a number one overall selection. Alexei Lafreniere, take notes, buddy, because you've got some catching up to do. So, yeah, I don't see it with Seattle. I know they're only 3 points back, but there's nothing about that team that says they'll make it to me. Utah, I think, is going to take it. Just because I think they're loaded with talent up front and they have a game breaker like Sergachev on the back end. Plus, I think their goaltending is better than some of the teams behind them outside of Saros and Hellebuck. Like it's better than St. Louis. It's better than Seattle. It's better than what's going on in San Jose. It's better than what's going on in LA. I know Kemper is decent, but I mean, I still don't trust Kemper all that much without the defensive unit that was in front of him a couple of years ago when Gavrikov was logging 20 plus minutes a game for them and shutting down the opposition. So, but I think Utah will take it. I don't trust LA. That's another team. Kempe and Panarin are trying to do everything they can to get that team to playoffs. But look at their team up and down. Let's pull up their numbers because this is going to be really interesting to look at here. So Panarin, since coming over, has 19 points in 18 games, 7 goals, 12 assists. Kempe is having a nice season with 28 goals and 63 points. But then your next highest scorer is Quentin Byfield, who has 21 less points and only 2 less games played. Kevin Fiala had 40 points in 56 games before he went out for the season. Brant Clark is closing in on 40 points. Alex Laferriere has 37 points. Anze Kopitar, you can see why he's going to retire. 35 points in 59 games, great career, but he looks like he's cooked. Like he looks like he needs to be a third line center at most right now, because he's not going to give you top 6 numbers anymore. And he's still playing 18 minutes a game. Like, I don't know if you can really do that. Byfield is playing almost 20 minutes a game, and he has only 42 points. That's not good for a number 2 overall pick in his, 5th year, I think. So I don't trust this LA roster. They cannot score. That's a big problem. And they are 29th out of 32 in goals against with 193 goals. But the good part is that they seem to defend well overall as a team, because the unit on paper is not good. They're 6th out of 32 in goals against, only 215. So, well, Buck Talk would definitely talk about Liam Greentree later. But yeah, this is an interesting one. Just since we're on it right now, yeah, they screwed that up big time. So, Frosty, I'll leave that Bergeron or Kopitar question for a little later. Isildur, this question is going to come. Your question about Kopitar and Doughty, that's going to come up in a little bit. I have something for you there that I'm going to ask you all. So, let's see here, David. Yeah, I'll ask about. I'll keep that for later too. Well, it sounds like it's raining here. So thankfully, all of my stuff, even though it's outside, is under an awning, which is good. All right. But we'll move on from who I think will take each wild card spot. Let's open this up a little more. What teams or players are you keeping an eye on the most in this race? And yes, you are absolutely right about that, David. It'll rain for like 5-10 minutes, like it's pouring right now. Just started, but this will probably end in about 5 or 10 minutes, and then it'll be fine. It'll look like super sunny, and it'll look like nothing ever happened. So, Frosty saying Detroit. Okay, Frosty. What are you keeping an eye out for with Detroit? Like, what? I like the way you think, Frosty. I do, because this is going to be a question I'm going to ask in a little bit. So I'm going to star that, because we're going to talk about ramifications in a little bit. So, so that's, yeah. Oh, this is a good one. Cole Caulfield hitting 50. I like this. All right, I'm going to pull up some little research here. American players, single season records. Frosty, I'm going to talk about that in a bit. But I like where you're going with this, because we're going to discuss that in a little bit. But I promise you on that. So we're talking about American-born players to score 50 goals. So we're going to exclude Brett Hull because he's not American-born. He's Canadian-born. Austin Matthews has the record, obviously being the only 60-goal American-born player. So you have Austin Matthews, Kevin Stevens, Jimmy Carson in 1988, who is one of the youngest players to score 50 goals in a season as a 19-year-old. Hit 55. Pat LaFontaine did it twice. Kevin Stevens did it twice. Bobby Carpenter, Jeremy Roenick, Keith Tkachuk, Chris Kreider, Joe Mullen, Sean LeClaire, Mike Modano, And that is it. So there are 12 players to score 50 goals. Who cares if he hits 50 if he drinks milk? Oh, yeah. And yeah, Isildur, the Jinx of Montreal, 50 goals. Lot of history there. Elaborate on that if you will. But Cole Caulfield could become the 13th American-born player to score 50 goals in a season. Yes, Joey Mullen, Hell's Kitchen, New York, everybody. Hell's Kitchen, New York. He and Nicky Fotiu and the Mullen brothers are really the first inner city New York guys to come out and get into the NHL. Well, at $7.8 million for the next 6 years, I would take that on. Who wouldn't take Cole Caulfield? That's a Ranger blunder right there. You didn't want to take the smaller guy because he was too small. But then again, Capo Caco was the consensus too. And how much can you blame them for going with what the board said? Like, this was supposed to be a player that was supposed to be a real game breaker and would help a franchise turn around. He just has not been that. He has not been that. I did in fact mention John LeClaire. Oh, are you talking about when Boom Boom broke 50, Isildur? Because there was a lot of blowback about Boom Boom Jeffrey and going after Rocket Richard's record. If that's what you're talking about, yeah, then I know what you're talking about. Yes, Capo Caco is a bust. We can all know that. But yes, he was, unfortunately, Capo Caco was the consensus too in that draft. The only thing I wish they would have done was taken a further look at someone like Caulfield. Caulfield. Yeah, I don't know if I agree with that. I get why Caulfield looks great at that price, but I think Kaprizov is just a better player. And I don't think there's anything wrong in saying it. I mean, listen, I don't like Kirill Kaprizov's contract, but if you ask me who the bigger game breaker is, it's Kirill the Thrill. And I don't have to think twice about that. Like, he is a superior player. I mean, Caulfield's the better goal scorer, but Kaprizov is the better player. Yeah, that's the crazy part too. Kaprizov is playing with not a lot of talent around him. But again, when you go and you take that much money and you want to be the highest paid player in the league and you want to be the record setter and you want to be the guy and get the big money, I mean, that's what's going to happen sometimes. I mean, he's making $9 million right now, but it's $17 million starting next year. And he has a full no movement clause. And I get Minnesota had to do it, but how are you going to construct a team around that? Oh. Yeah, I don't. I look at this team and I just say, you're losing Tarasenko, you're losing Foligno. Looks like both Folignos actually. I think. No, Marcus is under contract for another 2 years. Sorry. Um, you're losing a lot of guys. But yeah, I look at this and I say to myself, yeah. Oh no, that's something my buddy's daughter made in school when she was younger. So I think it's like an Irish like luck star or something like that. I'm not sure exactly what it is. He's not home right now, so I would have to ask him exactly what it is again. He said it like a few weeks ago or something. Uh, but yeah, uh, I like the idea of Caulfield. You know, going for 50. That'll be interesting. Nathan McKinnon has 50. And let's just put it this way. Caulfield is not far from McKinnon. And like Caulfield could actually become the second American born player in the modern era to lead in goal scoring. I think the second American born player ever to lead in goal scoring. Like, cause he's not far behind McKinnon. He's 3 behind McKinnon. They played the same amount of games. But if Caulfield catches fire and overtakes the lead, I mean, he could be the first American or the second, or actually no, yeah, the second American born behind Matthews, and and the third all time to lead in goals with Keith Kachuk and Austin Matthews being the others. He would be the third. So I don't know if I agree with this. I don't like their center depth at all. And I don't think they have centers that really could grow. I also don't like the Brazo for Kuznetsov move. Kuznetsov has been awesome for Boston. He has been incredible for them. So that move has paid off so much dividends for Boston over Minnesota, who got Justin Brazo out of it. And I never understood, like, I get the size. 6'6" and 230. Okay. But I don't think there's really that much of a player there. And then he's not even in Minnesota anymore. He's in Pittsburgh now. And now he's putting up numbers in Pittsburgh because everybody's doing so because of the new coach bomb. But they traded him to Minnesota for a 6th round pick, Marat Kuznetsov and Jacob Lauko, who I think was with the Bruins previously, and then he goes back to the Bruins. Yeah, he went back to the Bruins. So yeah, it just I just don't understand that move. I don't understand why you wouldn't sign him then if you were going to trade a piece like Kuznetsov. You're absolutely right about the Wild needing Trocheck, though, Frosty. That should have been their guy. They should have. Sorry if I am. I can't tell. I can't tell if I'm buffing or not. So, but yeah, Trocheck should have been their guy. They needed to pull the trigger on that move, and they didn't want to do it. They didn't want to give up Danila Yurov, and that was the sticking point. And I don't blame Drury for not budging on that. I don't. I know the return might be less come summertime, but if the proposal, if the return, and I said this on trade deadline day, if the return was going to be Charlie Stramel, a 1st round pick, and another piece like maybe Carson Lambos, then no, not enough. Charlie Stramel is not a prospect that people were going to be excited about. Sorry. The guy only dominated up this year. Only dominated this year as an overager in the NCAA. So, you know what? I think Dan Hughes has got a real good case for that Jack Adams trophy. I think you're right, Anthony. Yeah. What he's done with that team is nothing short of incredible, especially with Sidney Crosby being out after the Olympic break. So, Dwayne, yeah, I agree with you. It had to be. He had no choice at that point. He didn't get it. I don't think he got enough. Listen. I love what Liam Greentree's done since he's been traded. I think that pissed him off. Like I said yesterday, I think that trade really pissed him off. And was like, okay, like you don't think much of me. Okay, fine. I'll go prove my worth in another organization. So, yeah, and yeah, you're right, Rich. Garen, that was literally what Garen said. Those are the words out of his mouth. I thought Chris would give me a discount. Oh, yeah, that's another one too. I think Ruff will win it, but Dan Muse certainly has a more than legitimate claim to the Jack Adams. I really do. I think what Dan Muse has done in Pittsburgh is incredible. Um, People will talk about Sidney Crosby, but again, Crosby has missed time. Crosby's probably going to miss out on another 80-point season because of the fact that he's missed time. But Sidney Crosby, again, is a point per game. There are three things certain in life: death, taxes, and Crosby being a point per game. Until the day that man retires, I think he's going to be a point per game player. He's just that good. So, but yeah, maybe that's a player to keep an eye on. Sidney Crosby. Like what he does down the stretch here. What about Tage Thompson? You know who actually interests me? Because I think we're starting to see a breakout from him, speaking of Buffalo. Jack Quinn. Jack Quinn. Yeah. Oh, man, you're telling me. You're telling me, Rich. I feel, yeah, I remember watching his debut. I remember when he went water bottle on Jose Teodor, and the line on TSN was "Welcome to the Sidney Crosby Show," and he looked like he arrived. Yeah, I think he's calling it Frosty. I think he is. I just think I think the goal chase has worn off. I think he's finally, yeah, I think he's done. Nah, I don't think Pittsburgh will trade into New York. There's not been a lot of traction between those two teams. Yeah, Carlos Boozer's son. I remember watching Carlos Boozer in the NBA, and then Patrick Surtain, just junior winning DPOY, just crazy to think about. Gabe, you might be right about this. If maybe Canada wins if Crosby plays, so who knows? Um, yeah. So we'll move on from this. I have another question to pose. What teams or players need to step up the most? ZK. That's a good question. That's going to be a question that we'll talk about in a little bit, because that's going to tie into one of my next ones. Dwayne saying Shane Gostisbehere. He's been good defensively in a point per game when he's been in a lineup. So Shane Gostisbehere being a force for Carolina. Okay, that's someone to watch out for. Jason Robertson and the Stars in the playoffs is a good one too. I think that there's definitely something to be said about Dallas and their failures to get back to the finals for the first time since the 2020 COVID season. Detroit needs to step up to save CVY's job. We're going to talk about that in a little bit, just because that's going to tie into what I'm going to ask next. And what do we think of Tortorella's in Vegas chances to come? I think So I said this yesterday on our stream yesterday. You know what, David? This is actually a good question. I'm gonna star that into the next one. That's gonna tie into the next question I have. But I said this yesterday. Remember when? I mean, anyone that's old enough to remember when the Rangers fired Roger Nielsen because of the controversy between him and Messier, the relationship that they had, and that Ranger team basically slacked off in '93 and missed the playoffs after winning the President's Trophy in '92. Like, that was when management decided to go and say, hey, you know what? You want to slack off, you want to do this, now you're going to get the punishment. And the punishment was Mike Keenan. Mike Keenan was going to come in and he was going to hold everybody accountable, and he was going to make sure that they all went and they showed up, and their training camps were terrible, and it just he was Iron Mike the Terrible, basically. But you know what? Tortorella is that guy now. Like, when he's brought in, the guys are like, oh shit, here we go again. Because they know they have a disciplinarian. It's not going to take any shit. Who's going to make sure that you come to training camp. You're coming into training camp in top shape. I remember when Bobby Sanguinetti was a Ranger prospect, and he came to training camp and he threw up in training camp because Tortorella dogged the players so hard in training camp. No. Keenan took over after Nielsen was fired from the Rangers. But yeah, Vancouver ended up getting Tortorella right after the Rangers did. The Rangers got rid of Tortorella and got Vigneault. And then Vancouver got rid of Vigneault and got Tortorella, and that just ended up not working out for Vancouver. Oh man. But yeah, that's an interesting thing about Vegas. Do they need to step up? Buffalo needs to not just be happy to make the playoffs. They could do damage if they step up. I agree with this. Buffalo's got a young team with a nothing to lose mentality right now. And they have been on a heater since December. Hurricanes and Dallas both need to get over that same hump. I agree with that, Dwayne. Definitely. Sorry, just got to plug in the old power source here for the laptop, since battery is running a little low. Frosty saying the Sens need to step up. It would be nice for them to make the playoffs 2 years in a row. Well, they've been missing a lot in these recent years. So, Rod Brindamore, Carolina. I mean, we're going to star this because it's going to lead into my next question. Going to lead into my next question for you guys and girls. I'm going to star this. Well, actually, you know what? Since we were just talking about it, I'll talk about it real quick. It was a shocker, but like I said, that was the kick in the ass. That was the wake-up call. When the Rangers fired Nielsen and they finished out the rest of that season, and then Keenan was hired. It was seen as oh, well, you know what? You guys paid the price. Now you're going to have to deal with the pain. That is what this is. That is management saying that, you know what? We're done with your shit. We are done with your shit. So, yeah, you can absolutely do it, Dwayne. You absolutely can fire Rod Brindamore. We'll get back to that in a little bit, but you can absolutely fire him. And this is why. This is why. I'll talk about this in a little bit because that's going to be something that it's going to tie into my next question. When I look up and down the lineup, what I would like to see, if possible, would be a Macklin Celebrini rampage. I would love to see Celebrini against the Sharks into the playoffs. Yes, Torts took over after Muckler. Yeah. Yeah, if there was ever a time for Carolina to get over the hump, no Florida, no Rangers. This has to be their year. Again, we will talk about that in the next question because that's going to be ramifications time. Sorry, just have to. Sorry about that. Tampa also has a chip on their shoulder after the last few years. Somebody makes somebody made a comment about Tampa before missing, getting knocked out in the first round a few years in a row now. Yeah, Tampa would be a team that I would think would need to step up. Yeah, I think the Islanders are kind of playing with house money, so whatever happens with them, whatever happens. Gabe, yeah, this is going to tie into the next question. You guys are one step ahead of me. You know what? We keep basically talking about ramifications. Fuck it, I'm just going to throw it out there now. Which teams that missed the playoffs could see the most changes in the near future, whether players or personnel? And you guys, we're going to go back to it. I'm going to go to the start comments here. So, first one was earlier from Josh. Detroit or some heads will roll. What is up with the Yzer plan? What is up with the Yzer plan? And Frosty then asked, is Stevie Y going to go for sure? So that's another one. Like, I mean, that's got to be, yeah. And then Evan even said it too. Detroit needs to show up to save Stevie Y's job. So yeah, that's got to be a thing here. I mean, is this Stevie Y's last chance here? Is this his last chance? So I don't think I don't know if Yzerman can really go through another offseason with having to answer questions. Like, I don't know how you fire a guy that's probably the second best player in your franchise's history, maybe third if you want to argue Nick Lidstrom, but I don't know how you fire Steve Yzerman. Like, in terms of Detroit's Mount Rushmore, he's on it. It's Gordy, him, Lidstrom, and then Fedorov, Datsuk, Ted Lindsay. I mean, I tell you right now, I mean, Detroit did not do anything to address their center depth. They didn't want to give up assets for Vincent Trocheck. And that was a player that definitely would have helped them out. I mean, Trocheck said he would have preferred to stay east. Detroit's east. You know what, Dwayne? Let's open this up. May not fall into this topic, but as far as changes, the sheet was talking about an American player mass exit out of Canada in the offseason. No, that's fine. We could shift this over to Ottawa with this. This actually fits right into this. Perfect. Actually, this is a great comment, Dwayne. Brady Tkachuk. Brady Tkachuk. I just hold on. I had it starred. Give me a second here. Mike NYR for Life even brought it up. You know, the Tkachuk's on their podcast. Brady talks about the rumors around him picking up. Now, you can't tell me that Brady is not in tune with what's going on. He hears things. They all hear things. Whether or not they want to admit to it, I don't really care. You all hear things when you're players. You hear your name in papers. Again, I'm going to reference the Road to Victory 94 DVD. Brian Leach heard about being traded for Chris Chelios, possibly. You're going to tell me that players don't hear these things? No, they absolutely hear them, and they hear them even more now with social media. Back then, Leach got a phone call saying that he was being traded for Chris Chelios. It's now it's all over. You can't avoid it if you choose not to, even if you choose not to. So, listen, Brady Tkachuk could be a game changer for a lot of teams, and I know the Rangers. The Rangers have wanted Brady Tkachuk. And we all know about Uncle Larry and his soft tampering and Michael Andlauer throwing a little temper tantrum over a Larry Brooks article saying things. So, you know what? Maybe. But does Brady want to be a Ranger? Does Brady want to be in Florida with his brother? Does he want to be in another American market? Oh, I see what you did there. Man. Enzo and Cass were on top of the world when they came up. And Enzo was just such an idiot. One, how do you cheat on Liv Morgan? Dumbass. Who would do that? And two, how do you become such a cancer in that locker room back there? You're the new guy there, and you're causing all these problems to the point where Roman Reigns kicks you off the bus? Jeez, man. I don't know if they would butt heads. I think they would get along, those two. I think JT wants more guys like that. No, you're right, Gabe. It did go right to his head. All that stardom, and it went right to his head, and he thought who the hell he was when he should have never done that. It's absolutely why he's just... But I don't think that... I really don't think that, yeah, shit disturbers are a fan favorite. Sean Avery was a fan favorite. So, yeah. Yeah, Enzo had the mic skills to go so far, regardless of wrestling skill. He would have been the guy that would have been at least an upper mid Carter because of his mic skills. Because of his mic skills, he was just that good on the microphone, and he had charisma. So, hey, Medusa was hot. She's still. Have you seen her lately? She's still hot for her age. Oh my god, man. She is, dude, she is something else, man. Medusa Michelli. We'll get rid of the Brady Tkachuk comments. Carolina has been a name that's brought up. Funny enough, Dwayne. Sorry, but Gabe you can see Bruce Cassidy in Carolina if they fire Brind'Amour. And and again, I'll go back to the Brind'Amour discussion. You go and you get to the playoffs every year. That's great. But you can't get over the hump. He's won one conference finals game as their coach. You're not gonna gather favor by getting to the third round and then getting slapped around in that third round. Evan's saying, see Bruce Cassidy in Jersey if they clean house with Fitz and Keefe. I don't know if they're going to. Why would they let Fitz make the moves at the deadline then? That I don't get. I really would need to have that cleared up for me, because if they not let moves, I should say. If they didn't want to let him go and do things, I guess I could see maybe, but why not just let him go then at that point? You weren't going to make moves. Why not get rid of him? Carolina has to move away from Carolina. They have made him almost godlike in Raleigh. Well, that's what happens when you lead the team to the first Stanley Cup. I hate to say it, but that's what happens. We'll go back to some of these others. Get rid of that. Dallas, David Wood asking if Jason Robertson is playing for his next team. That's a good question to ask. It's a good question to ask. I mean, it's interesting because it's you have Jason Robertson, who his name has come up in discussions before. ZK, we're gonna talk about Matthews. Funny enough, because that was the one I was gonna bring up next, was yours. But you can see Robo. I mean, I guess this is a fair point too. I mean, you could look at it that way and say, hey, you know what? He didn't make any moves, or he wasn't able to make any moves. Is this guy capable? Or did they just want to keep him on to the end of the year and not cause a distraction? But the team's so far out that they were never going to make the playoffs. The playoffs were never an option for them by that time. They weren't getting back there. So I don't see why. I guess I don't know why they would have just been like, hey, you know what? Time to let him go. I don't know. I think it was on the sheet with Jeff Marek, and Jeff Marek brought it up. I think, was it? Oh no, he was talking to Wyshynski. Yeah, Wyshynski was on the sheet, and that's when they were talking about this. Was weeks back, more towards the trade deadline. So yeah, I don't know, man. That could go both ways. I mean, neither of us could. I don't think either of us are really wrong in anything with what we're saying here with this, Evan. So, but yeah, Jason Robertson. Yeah, you're right though. Gabe, they could throw a point, throw money at Robo. That's a good point. I mean, and that would make sense with Drury. Drury was technically a part of the last regime when it came to that rebuild or retool, whatever you want to call whatever that was lied to us about, when they turned around and they got Panarin. They went around and they got a big fish, like right away. Could Robo be that big fish for the Rangers? Could Brady Tkachuk be that big fish? So Robo is somebody to look out for. Yeah, JT and Brady were teammates on that Olympic team. I'd imagine they're probably somewhat friendly. Yes, and this was one of the last ones I was going to get to, was this. So ZK, don't worry. I saw your comment, buddy. We're going to get to that. But Gabe also brought this up. That McDavid extension is going to come quick. And this was something that was talked about recently, like only a couple of weeks ago, with on some major news outlets. There was an article that came out. I think I reposted it on Twitter, but saying that, I think it was Friedman. I think Freeman or LeBron. I can't remember who. But basically said that this could be, if they don't get it done this year, McDavid can go to them and say, trade me now. McDavid could go to them and say, trade me now, get what you can get for me. So, oh man. I mean, you're not wrong for feeling this way. I mean, McDavid loves that franchise. He does. I mean, our fearless leader is here. So Drury's going to give up asset for Robertson, a player that he didn't put on Team USA. That's a good point. I mean, we make fun of Mark for all of his gaffes, but I'm gonna put this back up there. Mark isn't wrong here. Mark has a very, very good point. I mean, it would look pretty funny doing that. But then again, he didn't make the whiskey drinkers comment. So that's the one thing I would say back to you. He didn't make that comment. Guerin did. And as David points out here, Guerin had final say. Yep, Gabe also said it. We don't know if Drury didn't want him on the team. Billy G's call. Oh, God, no. Oh, please. Oh, no. If Braden Schneider holds up any Jason Robertson deal, I'm going to go find Drury myself and have a nice little chat with him. If that ends up being somehow true, we won't really have any way of proving it, obviously. But if that ends up being true, and I have some sort of concrete proof of this, I'll go find him myself and give him a piece of my mind. I would do that. I would do it, but yeah, I don't know if Dallas would. I think there'd have to be a lot more of a Lafreniere to get Robertson, but I'd pull that trigger in a heartbeat. There's not a huge age gap there. Dallas would be getting a player that's at a similar salary, but yeah. No, I'm not playing that. Nope. I'm not playing that. That's going to get us demonetized if I do that. So nope. It was bad enough that he said what he said. Nope. Absolutely not. But yes, Connor McDavid, that can have a lot of a big impact on what goes on, because there was an article, like I said, about that a few weeks ago. I can't remember if it was LeBron or if it was Friedman. I think it might have been Friedman. Could have maybe even been Chris Johnston, but there was talk about McDavid and possibly being dealt from Edmonton if they don't win. So if anyone can find that, please feel free to go ahead and find that and pull it up. But I know there was one for sure. ZK, finally getting to your comment here, buddy. What directions do the Leafs take in Matthews? That's a big thing, too. That's a big thing. Yeah. I think they need to retool. I think that Matthews' era needs to end. Just like the Rangers, I think the only way that you can really move on from all the toxicity that's been around is if you get rid of the rot from head to toe. Do you think they're wrong for thinking that, Dwayne? That's the question I'll throw to you. Josh saying Toronto already seeing changes, but how much? Pelly said he doesn't want to rebuild and won't entertain prospective GMs that say they do. Like, I listen, Mark brought up the question about who's more clueless, Pelly or Dolan. I still think it's Dolan, just because Dolan is. We just know he's not a hockey guy. We know he's not. He's said that in the past, but I think At that point, what do you do with Matthews? Yeah, and that would be so if they were still in Arizona, that would be something. That would be the local boy coming home, the local superstar. But this would be huge for Utah. What goes back the other way? Oh, man. Tony Robo. Oh God. Oh no. Oh man. Mark's in the chat too. He was just in the chat too. If anyone saw that comment from Li Storm 43, so that's Mark, by the way. So here is Sean chirping Mark when Mark's in the chat. Oh man. Oh, I would. He got me yesterday though with that. What did he do yesterday that Anthony and I laughed at? Oh, Artur Zerbe. Oh, that was great. That was great. Artur Zerbe on the Islanders, everybody. Again, you're not wrong, David. You're not wrong. Logan Cooley. Oh man, does Utah really want to give up on Logan Cooley? I get it's Austin Matthews, but oof. Um, yes, but restricted free agents. I don't think there's any unrestricted free agent that really does anything for this team. I mean, who's the guy? Alex Tuck? I think he looks more at trade targets and restricted free agents than he would unrestricted free agents. So ZK saying, I think Matthews is out. Tavares retires soon enough and keeping me. I don't know how you rebuild around Nylander. Nylander is getting up there in age, and by the time they're ready to contend again, I mean, you have Nyes. You lost Fraser Minton in the Brandon Carlo trade, which just does not look well for Toronto right now. But you still have Easton Cowan there, and Easton Cowan looks like he's going to be a top 6 forward for sure one day. I They need assets. They need young assets, and they need them quick. Matthews would be a real a big way to restart your organization. So Gabe saying what changes to make McDavid what changes in Edmonton make McDavid think will be better next year. They barely have any cap space and terrible contracts. Yeah, I don't like the Jake Wallman deal. I like Jake Wallman, the player, but I don't like the deal that they gave him. And again, they're going and giving like mid-level defensemen big money. They need to add more like depth, like real legitimate depth to surround their players. Like you needed to add a top-level defensive defenseman to play with somebody like Evan Bouchard, who just seems to just mess around in his own zone in the regular season. Just doesn't seem to care to play defense in the regular season. Come playoff time, he's a different guy. I'm not saying he's great in his own zone in the playoffs, but he looks like he actually cares, I guess. But yeah, I don't know what they do that can make. Let's pull up their cap wages page. So give me a second here. Let's take a look at this team and what they have to work with. Their cap space right now, as it stands, for cap wages, $4.23 million, basically. So next year, coming off the books, Adam Henrique, $3 million, Jason Dickinson, 2.125, Jack Roslovic, 1.5, Kasperi Kapanen, 1.3, Curtis Lazar, 775K. So that's what? So that's 6.75, 8.1 million, and then Connor Murphy's 2 million off the books. Connor, that's 10 million. Connor Ingram, 1.15 million. Spencer Stastny is a restricted free agent. And then you have Matthias Ekholm going down from 6 million to 4 million, which is actually good for him because he's still good enough to play. And I like him at 4 million as opposed to 6 going forward. I think that's better. But Jake Wallman, so you gain 2 million in space there, but Jake Wallman goes to 7 million, which is just absolutely absurd. If you would have told me that Jake Wallman would have been making 5 to 5, I'd be like, okay, I like Jake Wallman at that price. Not at 7 million, though. Not at 7 million. So you're gaining about 10 million in cap space, but you have to replace 4 forwards. Oh, Vasily Podkolzin also gains 1.195 million, so almost 2 million for Vasily Podkolzin. And I don't like Trent Frederick. I don't think has really been worth that deal. I don't like Tristan Jarry at 5 million. I don't like Tristan Jarry in general, but Jack Campbell still has that dead cap. It goes up from 2.3 million to 2.6 million, so it's not a major raise, but yeah. I don't know. You got 10 million in cap space to work with. You got to replace 4 forwards and a defenseman. Unless Spencer Stastny stays up and you just let Connor Murphy go. Can they move Darnell Nurse? That's the question because he's just making way too much at 9.25. He is not worth that. He is worth maybe about 5.5, maybe 6 million at most. Because he's still decent defensively. But again, I wonder if they try to get him to move to waive that no move and move him. Because he's not worth 9.7% of the cap. Or next year it'll be 8.9. So I don't think anyone's gonna get frisky with those guys. I just don't think it's gonna be worth it. Gabe, I'm sorry. I just don't. Nurse's contract is worse than Morgan Riley's, but Nurse is probably the better defenseman. Yeah, cap is going up by 9 million, and you have to factor that in too. But they have so many players to replace, Anthony. So many players to replace. 4 forwards and a defenseman. And then do they get rid of Tristan Jarry? Can they get rid of that contract? I don't know if they can. Like, so Jarry has a modified no trade clause. He doesn't have a no movement, so you can waive him, but he has a 12 team no trade list. So I don't know what they can do. I think Dwayne might be right here. Like, the team defense is bad, but you cannot be relying on Tristan Jarry. Stuart Skinner looks infinitely better in Pittsburgh, though. Not that he's great, but he looks better. Dwayne saying Edmonton, he thinks Edmonton re-signs Roslovic. I don't know. I think he's a guy that'll go from team to team because he just doesn't do enough to prove himself. He doesn't do enough to want to to be brought back. Carolina didn't want to bring him back. He's got 20 goals and 32 points for Edmonton this year, Jack Roslovic. A second consecutive 20-goal season. And he's shooting at just under 16%. What happens when that number goes down? What happens then? I'm not buying him. I mean, maybe they do. Maybe you're right, Dwayne. Maybe you're right. But that's really kind of all I have for like the playoff race itself. Let's go to some start comments here. Um, DP asking which Ranger prospect excites me the most. Does that count Gabe Perreault? Are we still counting Gabe Perreault as a prospect? If not, I'm very much intrigued by Liam Greentree and Nathan Aspinall. Nathan Aspinall, just because I want to see if this has to do with size and being a little bit of an overager, or if he's the real deal. Greentree, because of the fact that he was the big piece in the Panarin trade. So I want to see what'll happen there with that. Gabe saying whoever the Rangers draft this year. That could be, yeah. That's what I said. And I've said it multiple times now. I think that trade lit a fire under his ass. He has been on a tear since that trade. Like it's night and day. Like he is playing like everybody. I remember when he got traded over, and everybody was like, "Oh, he seems like a nah kind of prospect, not really a blue chipper." Yada yada yada. He has been a one-man wrecking crew there. So, yeah, I know he's got some help in Windsor. I know who he's playing with. You don't have to tell me. Belchetz is there. I know Ethan Belchetz is good, but Liam Greentree, if you've watched Windsor, Liam Greentree's been their best player since that trade. And yeah, you gotta like a player with a point to prove, with a chip on their shoulder. So, go away from that one. David asks, is Matt Remby expendable now that we have Igor as an enforcer? Oh, another tongue-in-cheek comment from David. We love you, David. We really do. But yeah, Igor is now. I heard people referencing it as Igor Drago. That'd be pretty funny. And we are for life saying if the Rangers select 4th or 5th in this year's draft, who do you see them choosing? Sure, at that point, McKenna, Verhoff, and Stenberg will probably already be taken. Chase Reed or Albert Smith. This was a debate for me on Twitter. Who's the guy? Do you take the guy with the offensive upside, or do you take the guy that looks like he could be playing soon in Albert Smith's? And Albert Smith's is, yeah, Albert Smith's is a guy that I could see, and I've said this before on streams, I could see him having that Moritz Seider type developmental curve where he plays professional against men and he comes over and he makes a pretty big impact for a team right off the bat. Because I think he might be the most NHL ready prospect in this draft. So I know a lot of people might look at Ethan Belchetz and say the size, or Ryan Brubeck, but Smith's looked great in the Olympics, man. He's big, he's mobile, he can move the puck, he can skate well, and he's got a mean streak to him. And he's rangy and lanky too on top of that. Like he's got some range to him. I think that's a player that can come in and make an impact. Buck Talk asking if I think Drury is here to stay. Yeah, unfortunately. We've kind of been over this a lot, so I'm not gonna pan out, or not gonna talk a whole lot about it. But yeah, unless he screws up the Trocheck trade, I don't know. At that point, I would think maybe Jim Dolan, because he doesn't like rebuilding and he doesn't really have patience for that type of thing, would maybe step in and say, hey, you know what? You screwed this up. I wonder how long his leash would be then. So David saying Bettman would prefer Atlanta to go, McDavid to go to Atlanta. You're probably not wrong about that, David. You're probably not wrong. We just talked about Greentree, Buck Talk, so I'm intrigued by him. I think there's a talented player there with size, and I like that he got into that fight. He ran, and then he goes to fight. I like that. Yeah, I do. I think he's going to pan out. I think he could be a top 6 forward. I do. Frosty asks who's better all time, Kopitar or Bergeron. The Selkies favor Bergeron, but Kopitar was the more complete player. Kopitar is one of the most complete players I've ever seen. Only 5 players have ever won a Selke trophy while scoring 90 or more points in the same season. I want like I know that I've named them off. I wonder if anyone. I'm going to comment a few of these, star a few of these. So, just because I meant to star that one, but yeah, I think that there's 5 players. Troy Murray was the first in 1986. Then came Doug Gilmour in 1993. He scored. He was the first player to score 100 in win a Selke. Sergei Fedorov in 94 and 96. And Fedorov was the only player to win a Selke MVP in the same season, and score 50 goals in the same season. And then Pavel Datsyuk and Andrei Kopitar. Andrei Kopitar did it in 2018 and should have won the MVP over Taylor Hall that year, because Kopitar dragged that LA team into the playoffs. I know Taylor Hall had that crazy streak, and that's why he got it, because that Devils team didn't look great. But Kopitar had much more impact on a 200-foot game than Taylor Hall did. Well, Kopitar will leave a hole. Doughty, perhaps. Are you, Isildur, are you asking if Doughty would retire too? I'm not sure what you're asking here, buddy. Just clarify that for me, please. David saying when they put out the Kopitar statue, who gets the C, Kopitar, Brown? I think Kobe gets it probably, just because he's the number 1 scorer in Kings history, and he's won them 2 Stanley Cups, and he was a point per game in both of those runs. He could have easily won the Conn Smythe either time. What about Malhotra? I would prefer Reed or Smits over Malhotra. I'm not saying Malhotra can't be a good player at the next level. I don't know if I'm sold on Malhotra the way that everybody else is. That's just me, though. Gabe saying if Fox is staying, I think the play is Smits. Okay. I can see that. Belichick has hit the wall last month, and I heard he was injured. Not sure what's happening there. Oh, this is what you're trying to say. Okay, so Doughty has 1 more year left in his contract, and I expect he plays it out. Yeah, you know what? I didn't think about Doughty's contract status. I just knew he was getting up there in age. He's 36. He definitely showed some signs of slowing it down. I imagine he stays in LA for like another couple of years after that, but definitely nowhere near that 11 million he's making right now. Like that contract has just been way too much for him for a while. So, Morrow is, I believe, in Hartford right now. Yeah, he's in Hartford. I saw a clip of him laying out somebody the other day. I think against Bridgeport. Really nice hit. But he's playing well in Hartford, and I think he should be up. It is Alberts with an S, Smits. Just remember that. Well, even more badass name if you ask me that way. Just because it sounds more like a diehard villain. No, I don't think Doughty retires. I think he'll stay and play. I just think he's gonna have to take a pay cut, and I think he'll stay. But I can't see, I literally cannot see him going anywhere else. No, I honestly I don't see this. Isildur. I don't. I don't think Crosby's going to retire. He's 38, but he's still an excellent player. Like the fact that he's still a point per game at 38 is unbelievable. Like there are very few players to be a point per game at that age or later. Malkin, 39, and he signed. I did he not sign an extension, Malkin? I thought I remember. No, okay. So this is the last year of his extension. Yeah. I mean, Malkin's got 53 points in 51 games, point per game as well, at 39. But he's missed time. So, and then Letang got an extension recently, and he's got a few years left on his deal. He has 2 years left after this, and he's got a 10-team no trade the next 2 seasons with a full no movement clause. So he's got a 10-team no trade, but he's got a no move clause on top of that. Yeah, Yager comes back and he just goes like he's like trying to play Pokemon and play for every freaking team and catch them all. But yeah, he came back at 38. No, 39. 39. He was it was his age 39 year in Philadelphia. And February of 1972. So February 2011, he would have been 39 going into 40. So, and he had a nice year. He had 54 points in 73 games. And then at 41 going on 42, he scores 67 points. But here's the crazier part. 2 seasons later, at 43 going on 44, he scores 27 goals and 66 points in 79 games with that Florida Panthers team. Unbelievable. There has been, I don't know if there's been anyone that has scored that type of way at that age. Like Messier at 43 in his last year had like 40 points and just under 20 goals. And that was a really good year on a really bad Ranger team. Solani at like 40-41 had a 30-goal, 80-point year in 70 games. And that I thought was a complete marvel. But then for Yager to do that at 43, 44 years old, you just do not see that. You just don't see, like, he was another type of animal. So, like, my aunt worked for the Garden for years. She was pretty high up. Yeah, Solani had 31 goals and 80 points in 2011 in only 73 games. So he missed 9 games. And that was the year that him, Getzlaff, and Perry were aligned together. And Perry won the Rocket Richard that year and then won the MVP. So. And Yager is still playing. So, but Yager did all these types of things. And like I said, my aunt worked for the Garden. So Yager would literally, he would take the keys to the rink and he'd be there at like 2, 3 a.m. in the morning, just skating around like with like weights on his legs and his arms and just going around and firing pucks. Like he was that into it. Like he crazy good. So, I think Yager is just a different type of player. And he was built different. You're Rich is right. He was just built different, man. I'll never forget. My aunt told me the story. I think they were doing casino night, and this guy was drunk, and he was, running around the place like an idiot, stumbling around, knocked my aunt over. And this Yager just goes and chases this guy and grabs him by the back of his friggin' his blazer jacket, sport jacket or whatever he was wearing. And my aunt literally has to stop Yarmir Yager from beating the shit out of this guy. And this is Rangers Yager. So this is like still 35 maybe year old Yager. That's still like 6'3" and 235, 240 pounds of just muscle. This is not the skinnier Yager that came back a few years later after the KHL that was older. This was still like brolic Yager. Not that he's not now. If you've ever seen a picture of him like now, he reminds me of Chelios. There was a picture of Chelios after Detroit won the Stanley Cup in 2008. And he's like paddleboarding out on a river, and he's just in swim trunks. He's got sunglasses on, and Chelios is carved up like a frigging Greek god. Yager is like that. Yager is like that. Like I think every girl that talks about wanting a guy with a dad bod, that's what they think dad bods are like. No offense to any women in the chat or that are out there watching or anything. Rod the Bod. Rod the Bod. He was another one. Chiseled. And I walked past him. When Anthony and I went to the draft in Dallas in 2018, we get to our hotel, which is not too far from American Airlines. And we walk in, and one of the first people we see walking by us is Rod Brindamore. And when I tell you that man was a brick shit house, I mean that man is a brick shit house. Man. But he wasn't even the most intimidating dude of the entire weekend. So we get onto the media floor. We go down there. We meet John Van Beesbrook because the guy who was running the station that we worked for was a huge John Van Beesbrook huge John Van Beesbrook fan. So we talked to Van Beesbrook. Van Beesbrook, very nice guy. And had a nice little conversation with him for a few minutes. And yeah, I probably would do the same thing, Dwayne. Trust me, I am in no shape right now. If round is a shape, then sure, I'm in shape. But that's about the closest thing I'll be in shape right now. I got a lot of work to do. But we get into the media floor there. We're about to go to our media room, and we're still talking. And then somebody, I forget if it was Anthony or if it was Errol, the guy who ran it. I look, like, he points over there behind me, and I look, and about 6 feet from where I am is this huge, tall dude with a pretty big beard and some glasses on, and he looks like a librarian. Does anybody want to take a guess at who that was? Just massive dude, beard, glasses. He looked like a friggin' librarian. I'll leave it up to the imagination, because when I tell you right now, this was probably the most not Burns, no, not Pekka, no, not Ken Dryden, no. Think of one of the meanest players that has ever played the game. Anybody want to take a guess here? Oh, that's a good guess, but no, he died well before this. Nope, not him. Nope, not Barry Beck either. Chris Pronger. Chris Pronger. When I tell you, I looked up at him. I was like Chris Pronger is fucking scary in person. Super nice. Super nice. Like I didn't talk to him. I didn't want to bother him. He was in the middle of a conversation with somebody. But I tell you, like Pronger he looked like Giles from Buffy the Vampire Slayer with a big beard at like 6'6", 6'7". They build him at 6'6", but yeah, I think he was 6'7". I think he was about 6'7", because I have a friend named Danny who's 6'6", and taller than Danny. He was absolutely taller than Danny. So yeah, he was probably about 6'7", and just you could tell the build on him was just wow, dude. Jordan Stahl's a big guy, but he is definitely not as big as Chris Pronger. Yeah. Dolph Lundgren is the spelling. That's the spelling in the chat, Dolph Lundgren. But Dolph Lundgren is somebody I would never mess with, even if he was 85 years old. He is well versed in MMA, in multiple different martial arts. Yeah, he would break me 10 times over. Like, no thanks. I'm good. I don't need to be maimed. I would never mess with that man. I don't care how old he is. And he's super smart too. Super smart, well versed. Just that guy is like, hey, like I won at life. Yeah, exactly. He's a molecular scientist and a legitimate genius. Like he is literally the antithesis of the bronze over brain, because he is bronze and brains to like the nth degree. He's just he's a freaking anomaly. Yeah, he broke Stallone's sternum. Oh man. He might be a petri dish product. Jeez. For all we know, he is, but it's just incredible, man. Oh, incredible. Just an incredible, just oh, unbelievable. Let's see here. What time is it? I'm gonna go about 5 more minutes. I'm gonna wrap this up at about 4:30. I think I'm probably gonna go head over to Orlando and play some hockey. So um, let's got more questions. Yeah, I will break you and the bell curve. Yeah. They make the joke with Chuck Norris can solve a Rubik's Cube in one move. I would rather I would change that to Dolph Lundgren, because Dolph Lundgren would be the one that would fucking solve it in one move. Oh, that's cool. You live right around where Rod Brindamore was. His time with the Flyers came to an end in a very controversial way. The whole thing with him and Lindros and everything, and that was nuts. When I heard that he cold cocked Lindros, I was like, wow. Yeah. Rest in peace, Chuck Norris. Absolute legend. I'm gonna go watch a Delta Force marathon at some point and just cry, because Chuck was so good. Yeah, Anthony, I saw your picture with Lemieux when he was at that steakhouse over by you. Oh. Chuck Norris is the laughter in manslaughter, buddy. Just remember that. Oh, lone wolf. Okay, all right. Sidekicks. Anyone? Anyone? Oh, fun times. Fun times. Are we talking in a legitimate fight, or are we talking movies wise? Because I think in a legitimate fight, I think I'd go Chuck, but Bruce is unbelievable. Bruce is as real as they come too. He wasn't just acting. He was. I think once you start getting the ground game and everything like that, you get away from the stand up. I think Chuck would win. I think there's a weight advantage there for Chuck over Bruce as well. But two absolute legends. I don't think there's a wrong answer there. Oh, do you remember the Delta Force? You remember the Soviet Union? Yeah, well, they quit after watching a Delta Force marathon on satellite TV. So, yeah, that's great. That's great. Brock Lesnar definitely wears Chuck Norris pajamas. He definitely does. No shame in that. Oh, you're talking about Obafemi? Yeah, be interesting to see how his career goes. I mean, he's got a nice look to him, man. He's pretty good. He's talented. Mike's skills could use some improvement, but there's the makings of something there with that guy. I'll give them that. He's one of the guys I look at that WWE roster, and I'm not very high on that roster overall. Punk's lost appeal um, for me because just a lot of the shit he said about WWE and then AEW and then going back, it's just like, okay, yeah, no. Um, I think you know what? I think that'd be a great move for him. I think if they're smart. No, I think you do need some sort of mic skills. You do need some sort of mic skills. I'm way more AEW. Like I'll tune in from time to time with WWE, but I don't watch a lot. I'll keep track of what's going on there to a point. But Oba is really one of the guys that I look at where, yeah, I can see something there. If they develop him right, I think that he's got a future run as champion. Future runs, I should say. Um, yeah, WWE really lost me in the last couple of years. Like the Bloodline storyline was the last thing that I was really invested in, and then that got diluted. That got very diluted, and I've just kind of lost a lot of interest in them, and the TKO merger and the way that they did things. I mean, the code like that. I just yeah. Um, I like Trick. There's talent. There's talent there. There's definitely some talent with him. But Oba is really the one guy that sticks out. I like Gunther. I'll always like Gunther. I wish he was still called Walter. I hate the Gunther name, to be honest with you. But Absolute throwback. Great, turned into a great heel. Really turned into a great heel. Um, the whole John Cena thing and how they played that out sucked. Sorry. Just the booking has been bad. I always said back in the day that once Vince was out of the picture and Triple H was able to do everything, um, he would be great as a booker. But he started off well once Vince started fading out. And then over these last 2 years or so, I would say the booking has just been shit in WWE. I'm sorry. It's just way too many bad decisions. But yeah, there's Carmelo Hayes, another one. Carmelo Hayes, I think, he's got a ton of charisma. He's good on the microphone. He's got a great personality, big bombastic character. I like him. I think he can. I think he can do a lot. If you look at somebody to be a Shawn Michaels type, Carmelo Hayes could possibly be, not to that level, obviously, but Carmelo Hayes could absolutely be somebody that could be that high flying, just flashy guy that, that just Filkhausen. I don't know how Danhausen fits into WWE. I don't. They like their comedy to a point, but they haven't booked comedic wrestlers very well like lately. So I'm not very high on him being there. I think he's better off as an indie guy. I know in AEW he really kind of faded into obscurity, which is sad because I do like him in doses, but WWE just hasn't been very good with comedic guys. Like outside of R-Truth. Outside of like Truth is just a legend. Truth is one of the funniest characters that pro wrestling has ever seen. Ever. He is just so damn funny. He is a legend. Oh, Truthhausen could be fun. That could, you know what? You want to draw me back in, give me Bufford. That was weird. Sorry. But yeah, give me Truthhausen. I can get down with that. No, I know he's not. Listen, I know he's not there to wrestle. Like, but good for Danhausen. Listen, a lot of people are tribalistic, and I hate that. I really do. I prefer AEW to WWE, but I am not wishing for WWE's downfall. What I will wish for is that TKO fucks itself all the way off back to wherever it came from and gives back wrestling to the fans and not to and stops trying to just rip everybody off of their money. TKO is a scourge. I'm sorry they are. They have made shows unaffordable. Show prices are mortgage payments on people's houses. Did you see what it costs go look up that chart for what it costs to watch everything for the year? It's ridiculous. I wish nothing but the best for Danhausen. This is fucking awesome for him. The same way that I wish nothing but the best for Cody Rhodes, because I was so happy that man got to finish his story. He fucking deserved that. He deserved it. And that's what he wanted. And you know that's what he wanted from the start. You know what? At least Vince... fuck Vince McMahon. Fuck Vince McMahon for everything he did to Janelle Graham. And fuck him for what he did to Rita Chatterton. Fuck him for what he did to the Ring Boys. Fuck him for covering up Jimmy Snuka murdering Nancy Argentino. Fuck him for everything else. But at least he cared about keeping fans in the picture. That is the one positive thing I could say about Vince McMahon, is that he understood the value of having fans at the show and keeping the shows affordable. TKO doesn't give a shit about me. They don't give a shit about any of you in the chat or your neighbor or your grandparents or your kids. They just don't. So fuck them. Fuck them. That's why I don't watch WWE the way that I used to. Because in 2022, 2023, WWE started to make a nice comeback once Vince started to step down. And then the whole TKO thing happened, and they ruined everything. They put sponsorships all over the ring. They put fucking ads everywhere. AAA is good. AAA is very good. Absolutely prefer AAA to CMLL. I'll stay right there. Stampede, rest in peace. Rest in peace. But fuck TKO. Fuck TKO for taking WWE away from everybody and pricing out the fans. Yeah, Sean, I'm sorry, I can't. I can't. I don't think I have the time to do that. I don't. And things are going to change very soon with me because I'm probably going to be moving here, but yeah. Yeah, and this too. You keep catering to the Saudis? How are you going to push a women's revolution and evolution and all this other shit and be pro-women and then go send them to a nation that women have zero rights in? I talked about Green Tree and Aspinall. So Green Tree because of what he's done since the trade, and Aspinall because I want to see if he's legitimate or not. So, definitely, you're definitely gonna have to DM me on the side about where you're looking to, Sean, because if you're anywhere close to the Orlando area, at some point we'll talk about linking up. So, would definitely love to do that. But I am going to wrap this up. I actually went about 10 minutes longer than I thought I was going to go because somebody got me onto wrestling and somebody got me to rant about TKO. But yeah, I am thankful for all of you coming on and chatting with me. I figured I had some time and figured we'd get back to everybody and let you guys just have an open stream here. I try to keep it a little organized, but keep it as chat friendly as possible. So I'll try to do more of these. And hopefully Mark would come on with me the next time I do it. I know that I know he's probably a little busy today or needed the rest, but I know he's got, I think, work coming up in a little bit if he's not already there. So, but he jumped in the chat for a little bit. Anthony jumped into chat for a little bit too, if you guys saw them. So, but thank all of you for coming on, and hopefully we'll do a little more of these. Maybe we'll do one when the playoffs start. Trying to aim for something like that. Depends on what my schedule looks like then, but definitely try to do one for like the playoffs or something like that. But thank you again. Appreciate you all. Remember, join us on Wednesdays. You guys all know about our regular Wednesday show. That's still going on. But yes, definitely join us for the Wednesday shows. I may have a post game maybe towards the end of the season, like the very end of the season. Maybe we'll do that. Oh, yes, and happy Easter to all who celebrate. Happy Easter. Hope you guys all have a very happy and safe holiday and enjoy some good food with family and friends. Hopefully no one's alone on Easter. And, just enjoy it. Just be safe, everybody. So I will see you all on Wednesday. Join us for our Wednesday show. And hopefully the Rangers don't make you drink too much. Or if you're past the point of even drinking and you're just straight apathy and just like, oh, yeah, do I really have to watch this? I guess just enjoy Gabe Perreault. That's all. Just enjoy the kids. That's all I can tell you. So, yeah, maybe a last game of the season and celebrate that the pain is over. and maybe we'll be talking about draft lottery. Hopefully they get number 1. So we'll see what happens. But thank you all again, and have a good day, everybody.